Hey ladies and gentlemen, Richard Korra Kenobi here, and I'm back again for another Versus Series reaction. And today we have Antoine Bundelay's Korra versus Ahsoka Tano. Now, I'm doing this reaction to celebrate over 500 subscribers, which thank you again so very much. This is one of my favorite Versus series from Antoine. This is one of his best episodes, in my opinion. And this came out last year, so it's been a while since I've watched it, and I don't exactly know who won. So yes, I guess you'll be able to find out with me. And of course, I'm rooting for Korra because I love Korra, and my middle YouTube name is Korra. So yes, not that I'm biased because I do love Ahsoka Tano. I did watch all 5, or I should say 6 seasons of the Clone Wars. I went to actually see the movie in theaters. Yes, I know. And of course, I watch Rebels, and by the way, Ahsoka is one of my favorite characters from the Clone Wars up until Rebels. She was an amazing character. So yes, I love both characters, but I am leaning more towards Korra, just because, well, you know why. And also, too, I want to apologize for mispronouncing Antoine's last name in my last reaction, which was Rick and Carl versus Joe and Ellie, and I called him Antoine Bundelere instead of, he told me how to pronounce it. He actually liked my reaction video, so yes, thank you, Antoine, so very much. But he told me how to pronounce his last name. It's Antoine Bundelere. That's how you pronounce his last name. So yes, thank you very much, Antoine. I do apologize again, but don't worry, he and me were cool. So yes, with all that said, let's go ahead and watch this video and see who will win, the Avatar or the young Jedi Knight. So let's watch this. Forces of Nature, Ahsoka Tano versus Korra.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, a galactic republic, which stood for 1,000 years, fell to the rule of the Sith. The Clone Wars were the tipping point, splintering the Republic's guardians, the noble Jedi Knights. 33 years before the Battle of Yavin, Ahsoka Tano was discovered by Jedi Master Plo Koon on the planet Sheely. Like all Jedi, she lived out her childhood on Coruscant in the Jedi Temple. At the start of the Clone Wars, Tano was apprenticed to the infamous Anakin Skywalker. They went on many missions together, Ahsoka making a notable name for herself throughout her many campaigns. However, near the war's end, Ahsoka was framed for crimes against the Jedi and the Republic. Eventually she cleared her name, as it was her friend Barriss Offee who was responsible for the attacks. Still, the young Togruta lost faith in the Jedi Order, leaving her master and the war behind, never to return again. In another universe entirely, there was a group of individuals who could bend the elements: earth, fire, air, and water. Elements all different and unique from one another, yet there was always a need for a balance between them all. Only the Avatar could master all 4 elements and maintain the balance of the world. For hundreds of years, the Avatars were the mediators between all the nations, the bridge between the physical and the spiritual worlds. After the untimely death of Avatar Aang, Korra was reincarnated as the next Avatar. Born to the Southern Water Tribe, Korra was a natural in the physical aspects of the element, bending water, fire, and earth at the age of 4. She became a great Avatar, though she was a bit hot-headed, taking on Amon, the Equalist, Unalaq, the Dark Avatar, Zahir, the Anarchist, and Kuvira, the Conqueror. Though she was met with much strife with each of her adversaries, her will, determination, and resiliency were unmatched.
Reckless little one. She might not have made it as Obi-Wan, but she might make it as Obi-Wan. Alright, let's do this, folks. Round 1, physical abilities.
For this video, I will be examining these characters at the end of their respective series. Specifically, I will be looking at Ahsoka during the Clone Wars, notably during the events of Season 5.
Alright.
For Korra, this will be during the events of Legend of Korra, Book 4.
Okay.
At the age of 16, Ahsoka Tano stood at around 5 feet, 3 inches tall. As a teenage Togruta, she had a lot of dexterity. In combat, she favored flips and speedy dodges over strength-based attacks, often using acrobatics to outmaneuver her opponent. Through her force augmentation, she could bolster her agility, becoming a whirlwind of combative speed and swift evasion. Ahsoka's natural biology also boosted her senses. Her head tails allowed her to sense exterior movement, something her ancestors used when hunting on their homeworld. Ahsoka's youthful dexterity and natural biology, coupled with her force perception and force augmentation, made her a more than competent physical opponent.
Yep.
Korra stood at 5 feet, 10 inches tall.
Wow.
Somewhat tall for a human female.
Yeah.
As noted by the White Lotus, the physical aspects of combat came natural to Korra. She was a tenacious fighter in both her speed and strength, fast enough to dodge enemy strikes, strong enough to tank them when she could not. Her reflexes were quite stellar, proficient in hand-to-hand martial arts. I believe this is attributed to her natural killer instinct. But most of all, she had no quit in her. When tagged, she did not often stay down, willing herself to continue the fight. When it comes to the physicality of Ahsoka Tano, a Force-sensitive with Force-augmented speed and enhanced surround sense biology, she is clearly far above the natural abilities of Korra.
Yeah.
However, I do call Tano's Force augmentation into question. We have seen her make huge leaps and bounds, and contend with the ferocious General Grievous, but a non-Force sensitive, Pre Vizsla, was able to contend with her as well. This could indicate that Korra could react to Ahsoka's movement. And though I'm not counting any of Korra's bending abilities in this round, an air scooter or spout could give her a speed boost to match force-augmented speed.
That's true.
Not to mention, Korra's own reflexes were not that shabby to begin with. That said, Tano still had an advantage by way of her own reflexes and reaction time. A Force-sensitive had the benefit of precognition, reacting to their opponent moments before an incoming strike or laser bolt could connect. Considering this, and Ahsoka's added natural biology, I would say she has an edge with her physical abilities.
Alright, I can agree with that. Tactical abilities.
In the middle of combat, Ahsoka was a very interesting tactician. As pointed out by Ready 4, she has a stop-and-start method to her style. She assesses her opponent, deciphers the best way to proceed, then executes her plan. This is all well and good from a controlled and cautious approach, but it does not bode well for the seamless integration of a fight. Analyzing Ahsoka as a tactical fighter is difficult. When I reviewed her fight scenes, each of them were mired with circumstance in one way or the other.
That's true.
When Ahsoka faced off against Asajj Ventress and General Grievous, they were holding back, never going for the kill. When Tano faced off against Anakin and Obi-Wan, she was possessed by the son of Mortis, and her two mentors were also holding back. When Ahsoka faced Hondo, she was holding back. And when Tano faced against Barriss Offee, she was at a disadvantage. The Dark Jedi had a tactical advantage, knowing the environment better than Ahsoka did. The only fight that was without any circumstance was Ahsoka's bout with Pre Vizsla. In the fight, Ahsoka employs the stop-and-start method highlighted before. She attacks Pre Vizsla in stuttered movements instead of letting one attack lead into the other, or one block leading into a counter, giving Vizsla enough time to mount an attack. This method of fighting left Ahsoka open, especially to physical attack. However, this wouldn't be much of a weakness against Korra. I do not believe Korra could get within a few meters of Ahsoka without getting sliced by Tano's lightsaber.
Yeah.
But Korra could certainly jab in a rock or a water whip against Ahsoka at a distance. This brings up another point that I would like to highlight. Ahsoka's method of fighting could be beneficial against someone like Korra, who would be throwing a barrage of elements at her. Tano takes the time to think and assess. Considering this, I think she could successfully evade Korra's attacks, at least for a time. As a tactician, Korra was more intuitive than anything else.
Yep.
Unlike Tano, she did not necessarily go into a fight with a plan, falling back on her inherent skill, riding the coattails of her talent. Depending on her opponent, this could play to her benefit or her detriment. This style was beneficial when taking an aggressive approach, but it opened her up to unorthodox methods. That said, she integrated the four elements effortlessly, using earth in tandem with fire, and earth in conjunction with water. This does not mean that she was single-minded in her offensive approach. As a native waterbender, she was quite capable of redirection. However, the worst example of this strategy lies in her first bout with Kuvira.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
Korra was hindered by poisonous metals laced in her body, but the fight highlighted the worst of her strategies.
Yep.
Though confident, she simply could not keep up with Kuvira's speed and counters. What's worse, she never altered her tactics, never thinking outside of the box to work within her limitations. Korra's fighting tactics are improved by the end of her series, specifically in her second fight with Kuvira. She used her intuitive style to be more adaptable, while using less straightforward methods of attack. Korra's straightforward tactics have been an issue for her throughout her series, but she did seem to keep herself under control.
Okay.
Whether it was under the pressure of a pro-bending game, or the tension of an elemental fight to the death. So, how would Korra compare to a Jedi Padawan like Ahsoka Tano? We have seen Korra use her bending with great speed and great power. This, coupled with her intuitive fighting style, would help her combat Ahsoka's more stagnant fighting style. But Ahsoka's method of assess and execute, coupled with her force perception, could help her to perceive Korra's attacks.
True.
Korra could adjust her elemental strikes, as we saw in the finale of her series, attacking at different, less straightforward angles. Taking that into consideration, and the little effort it took for Korra to utilize elemental attacks, I find it more likely for her to tag Ahsoka more times than Tano would like. In short, I favor Korra's more intuitive fighting style in a situation with an opponent like Ahsoka. For this, in the context of a straight fight, I would give the edge to Avatar Korra for her tactical abilities.
Yes. The greatest change. Oh boy,
Say it with me, everyone. Like her master before her, and his master before him, and his master before him, and even his master before him. Ahsoka Tano followed a long line of focused Jedi Guardians, specialized in combative dueling.
Yep.
Though she was a focused duelist, that did not deter her abilities with the Force. Ahsoka was very adept in her use of telekinesis. She was able to land force pushes on Asajj Ventress and General Grievous, two warriors known for their evasive speeds. Granted, these force pushes came within specific circumstances. For instance, Ventress was distracted. Tano has also showcased both precision and power with her telekinesis. As noted by the White Lotus, and showcased throughout her many battles, Avatar Korra had a natural grasp of the elements. She could control the elements of fire, air, water, earth, and metal.
That's true.
Her use of earth was quite powerful, trained by the White Lotus, who taught her the more traditional approaches of earthbending, Bolin, who taught her the more updated, fast-paced form of earthbending, and Suyin Beifong, who taught her how to bend metal. Now, I know what some of you guys are thinking. If Korra can bend metal, she could bend Ahsoka's lightsaber pretty easily, right?
Maybe.
Well, there were limits to Korra's metal bending.
Okay.
Metal bending in her universe was ineffective against purified metals, so bending a lightsaber would be out of the question.
Well.
Korra also had a mastery with fire bending.
Okay.
The tenacity of the element came natural to her as breathing.
Yeah.
Not only was she capable of powerful, sustained fire blooms, but she was also very precise in her use. Firebending was often her go-to element, even more so than her native water.
Mm-hmm.
On the subject of water, as a citizen of the Southern Water Tribe, Korra was a natural fit, holding a skill with the healing properties of water. She also held a great power with water, creating tidal waves with a gesture. The element she had the most trouble with was air, which was probably the most similar ability she had against Ahsoka's telekinesis. The focus of spirituality within airbending was difficult for her to grasp at first, much like spirit bending with water. But once she reached her lowest point, her spiritual window was wide open. From then on, airbending came as easy to her as the other elements, integrating air as much as she did fire, creating masterful air spouts and powerful gusts of wind by the end of her series. Near the Clone Wars end, Ahsoka Tano carried two lightsabers, a standard green lightsaber and a yellow Shoto lightsaber. Initially, she was a practitioner of the fifth form of lightsaber combat, Xian, notably the reverse grip variant of the form. Xian was a lightsaber form dedicated to blaster deflection, redirecting blaster bolts back at the caster. This would be particularly beneficial to Tano during the Clone Wars, as most of her foes were blaster-wielding droids. Her master, Anakin Skywalker, would also have Ahsoka dabble in the principles of Jim So and Ni Mon, though that didn't seem to stick. Even with her master's training, it seemed that Ahsoka took a different route in her lightsaber training. Ahsoka's main focus in lightsaber combat turned out to be Form 4, Ataru, also known as the Aggression Form. Ataru was highly effective against single opponents, though it was dubious for long stretches of time. Form 4 practitioners were also very adept at outflanking their opponents through superior speed and mobility, often striking their foes on the back. But what was most effective about an Ataru specialist was their ability to utilize their entire body as a weapon. Not only were their blades a weapon, but also their feet and hands. This will be no different for Tano, who would use her martial skill to employ a kick or punch to highlight her lightsaber sequences. Ahsoka also extended her proficiency with Ataru to her specific training in Jar-Kai. The Jar-Kai variant of Ataru was nearly unmatched, especially since Tano used a Shoto. A Shoto was a much shorter lightsaber blade, used for defense or for quick slashes. Its short in length enabling more maneuverability and the sacrifice of reach. Now, let's be honest, Korra's main weapon was not her use of fire, nor water, nor earth, or even air. Her primary power lied in the Avatar state. The Avatar state is effectively the element of balance. It is without dispute the strongest form of elemental bending, combining earth, fire, air, and water, all in one. Not only was the Avatar state a boost to the elements, it also provided a deeper connection to the energy of the spirit world. Particularly, Korra was highly proficient with energy bending.
That's true.
She was able to repel the pure energy of Kuvira's mech, which held the power of something akin to an atomic bomb.
Yeah.
But I am not sure this ability will be much use against Ahsoka. It's plausible that Korra could repel the energy of a lightsaber, but I'm not sure that she would be fast enough to defend against the speed of a Jedi's lightsaber swing.
No.
And this is where the main comparison comes from. It's the Force versus elemental bending. Both Ahsoka and Korra were combatively sound, trained by orders that molded them into effective fighters. The Jedi Order and the White Lotus, respectively. The question is, which discipline was more effective against the other? The Force could replicate almost anything a bender could, manipulating the elements with telekinesis. However, a bender could bend the elements with less effort. For instance, while a Jedi could lift heavy stones, a bender had a direct connection to Earth, manipulating a lot more volume with less effort. And this is not even considering the boost the Avatar state would give. It goes without question that Tano would win in a close quarters confrontation. While I do believe her augmentation might be a little overinflated, her reflexes and reaction time would be too great against Korra in a direct exchange. Korra would likely stick to a battle of distance, especially when her foe was wielding a lightsaber. So the real question is this: could Tano evade a barrage of elemental bending long enough to close the distance and tag Korra? This would be all the more difficult when Korra inevitably uses the Avatar state, increasing her power output, resiliency, strength, and speed. But Ahsoka could use a telekinetic grip on Korra, stopping her in her tracks. But I'm not confident this would happen either. Ahsoka needed to concentrate when using the Force to such a devastating effect. If she is spending most of her time evading boulders and fire blooms, most of her Force abilities would be diverted to Force augmentation, not telekinesis. Still, considering that she could turn away the speed of blaster bolts, I would say it's fair to say that she could hold her own against elemental bending. Really, this whole matchup rests on the effectiveness of their combative abilities. For this reason, we will continue this examination in the final verdict.
Alright. Closing shots.
The fight between Ahsoka Tano and Avatar Korra would be a very interesting physical contest. Tano was a very talented Jedi Padawan, able to contend with enemies that should have been far outside her skill set. Korra was a tenacious avatar, capable of devastating power, a natural prodigy in her own right, with no quit in her DNA. Though Ahsoka was more physically agile and talented with the Force, Korra's extensive knowledge of bending and her intuitive fighting style will be quite the match for the young Jedi. Let's set up this fight. Let's say it takes place in the Hollow Bastion courtyard from Kingdom Hearts.
Ooh.
As a final tally, I would say the advantage to the victor goes 7-10.
Alright.
The following is a hypothetical battle of one majority victory.
Alright.
Each combatant would stand on their own floating stone, several meters away from each other. Ahsoka would have her lightsabers ignited, while Korra stands at the ready. I believe it will be Korra who would move first, using metal bending to disable Tano's lightsabers, but nothing would happen. Korra's ability with metal bending was good, contending with Kuvira, one of the best metal benders of the time, but she can only bend metals with impurities. Something like a lightsaber would be too refined. At this point, Ahsoka would throw out a force push, hitting Korra directly on her chest, tossing the Avatar off her platform. But Korra recovers, using the element of fire to glide back to safety. Ahsoka would already be on the move, hopping from floating rock to floating rock, closing the distance. Korra would begin chaining the elements together, using air to whisk Tano away, using water and ice to impede her movement, using earth to disrupt Ahsoka's footing, disturbing her purchase with the stone below. But Ahsoka would keep dodging everything coming her way, pivoting and jolting in just the right moment. The Jedi Padawan would use her heightened perception and physical augmentation to dodge Korra's attacks, listening to the whispers of the Force. She would be aware of the water whipping at her side, just a second before it reaches her. She would be mindful of the wisp of air rushing at her side, and she would let the Force balance her on the uneven stone. Before long, Tano would approach striking distance. With a swift gesture, Korra would likely throw up a rock wall between herself and Tano. The young Jedi would slice the stone easily in two, but is met by a huge fire bloom. Were it not for the Force, she would have been burned. Instead, she throws up a minor force wall launched back by the force of the impact. This sequence plays into the benefit of Korra's natural integration of the elements, combining the defensive approaches of Earth and countering with the overwhelming offense of fire. Ahsoka would land on another stone platform, shaken and flustered, her face covered in ash. With an outstretched hand, she holds Korra's throat in a telekinetic grip. Korra would reach for her throat instinctively, gasping for air. but there is nothing she can do against an invisible hand around her neck. However, her eyes glow bright, initiating the Avatar state. With her feet, Korra kicks out with huge flames, breaking the invisible grip around her neck. Once again, the Avatar and Jedi would play a game of attack and evade. But this time, Korra's attacks would be more powerful, more potent. Stones would wrap around Ahsoka's ankles before she could break free. Gust of winds would slow down her approach. Tano would attempt to press her telekinetic advantage, but she would be spending too much time simply evading. No room for attack. The hand around her lightsabers would be encased in ice. Her feet would be trapped under stone, and the gust of wind coming from Korra would be too much to resist. The Jedi would realize that she was being lifted, encased in a ball of wind, fire, earth, and water. And with one final gesture, Korra would blast Ahsoka away, crushing her under the rubble of Hollow Bastion. And thus, I declare Korra, the Avatar, the Legend, the victor. Of course, this is all my opinion. Please leave your thoughts and comments below.
Okay.
Do you think that Ahsoka could defeat the Avatar? Or do you agree that the majority will go to Korra? Let me know. And of course, peace, love, and be water, my friends. May the Force be with you.
Always.
Always.
Wow, guys, that was good. That was just awesome, amazing. I'm glad Korra won, obviously. But that was good. Now, there were some points he brought up. Now, the main one that's debatable, but I wish he would have gone more into it, but it doesn't matter. The fact that Korra can't bend a lightsaber, well, that's debatable. I mean, yes, I can understand a Jedi's lightsaber, but what about a Sith's lightsaber? Because, as you know, a Sith's lightsaber is not purified, so that could be interesting if Korra went up against somebody like, I don't know, Darth Maul, or just any other Sith. But yes, and the fact that, yeah, she probably could bend the energy of a lightsaber, but she would have to hold it. Like, literally, she would have to be given a lightsaber in order to, energy bend it. Like, she wouldn't be able to energy bend it if it's coming at her in intense speeds, because, as we all know, trying to bend energy from a lightsaber that's coming at you, it's hard. So, yes, but I did like how this was a close matchup. It was really close, oh my goodness. And this is one of my favorites of his, and by the way, guys, just go check out Antoine. He is a wonderful guy. He works really, really hard on his Versus series, and I'm excited to see his next one. So yes, I hope you all enjoyed this, and if you did enjoy this reaction to Korra versus Ahsoka Tano, please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me down below, who do you think would win? Who did you go for? Did you go for Korra, the Legend, or did you go for Ahsoka Tano, the Jedi? So yes, and until then, this is Richard Korra Kenobi saying, may the Force be with you, be air, my friends, and I'll see you for the next video, and again, thank you all for 500 subscribers. Later, guys.